don't be afraid of what I call, somebody taught me, JOMO, the joy of missing out. Reset back up. It's okay not to get something done today. Take a step back and go reset your brain, your mindset, your emotions with whatever that is for you. For me, it would be maybe walking the dogs. Maybe it's playing with the kids. Maybe it's going for a bike ride. Maybe it's going to the museum by yourself and just reset. And I think what that allows us to do is really, we can't see the picture when we're in the frame. But when we step outside of it and have other people help us, like a mentor, sponsor, even just a family member, hey, I'm struggling. Here's what's going on. What do you think? We get these different perspectives and combine that with the reset. When you come back the next day, the next 2 hours, whether it's a week, it doesn't matter. I think we really can hit it with a whole new mindset. So I would say take a step back, do something you truly and purely love that calms you down. Talk to a friend, and then go back and kind of reassess what you're going for, what you're looking for, what you're doing. And I would be willing to bet 99 times out of 100, your mindset will be totally different.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Rochester Business Connections, powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC, where I get the chance to chat with Rochester, New York's very best business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. I am your host, Ben Albert. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, we don't do advertisements. My fee for this show is simple. If you gain value from the episode, personally share with a friend and explain your favorite part. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to Rochester Business Connections on the Real Business Connections Network. I am here with Kyle Ruggeri. Kyle, what's up, man? What's cracking? How are you?
Ben, what's going on? Thanks for having me on. Doing great. A little bit rainy out in Rochester here today, but it's all right.
Dude, I'm excited to have this conversation. It's been long overdue. You are the owner, founder, the man behind Sober Dogs Recovery. I just checked last night. You're literally like a hairline from 1 million views on YouTube. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but you're literally like a hairline by 1 million. And by the time this comes out, it won't come out right away. I do have a schedule here. Guarantee you'll be over 1 million. So I'm just gonna say it, and we're gonna bring it into existence. Over 1 million views on YouTube. And
Thank you.
And let's talk about that. So you're a certified addiction recovery coach. You're a recovering drug addict, alcoholic with addiction who took you to the depths of hell, pure misery and insanity. You spent 4 years of your life in New York State prison. And ultimately nowadays you say sobriety doesn't mean misery, and you're on a mission to tell your story, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, because I just kind of gave bits and pieces of your bio here. Let's talk about Kyle maybe before he was the man today. Tell me a little bit about your story with addiction, and obviously we want to get into the good stuff and some of the ways you advocate for recovery these days, but let's start at rock bottom, bro. Can we start at rock bottom? Is it too soon?
No. Rock bottom, I mean, what better place to start? There's videos going around on social media right now. There's a lot of recovery world's changing. And there's a lot of things saying, addicts don't have to hit the rock bottom, or the one I like better is we have many of them. So I had many bottoms, but the one that really changed me was I got rearrested. So I got out of prison. I was not doing anything different, which is the biggest thing. Do something different than you've been doing. We all know the definition of insanity. And doing nothing different, I got rearrested, was back in jail, and I had a phone call with my parents where they said, we're planning your brother's wedding and your funeral. And that was not hyperbole. I was going to be dead very soon, multiple overdoses prior. So it was not an if, but when. something about that, being back in that jail cell, just all of it combined, of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, hit me like a ton of bricks. And I finally was like, I have to try something different, or I'm just going to go out. It's going to be, death, pretty much death, or a 20-year prison term. So I decided to try something different, and the state sent me to Willard, which is a parolee boot camp. Happened to be the best thing possible for me at the time. Living on the streets was chaos 24/7, finding that next drug, stealing, lying, cheating, you name it, to this boot camp place that's mirrored on, literal Army boot camp minus the arms and stuff. So 5 a.m., you're up with drill sergeants in your face, yelling at you, fold your clothes, dude, get your bunk made, do this. But I needed that. I needed that structure. And the beautiful part was, during the day when a normal, let's say, boot camp would be doing arms training and weapon and combat, we're doing AA and recovery and therapy and group work, which is just perfect. And that was defining 3 months of my life that really helped change everything and get me on the path of recovery and sobriety. And
Cool.
I was going to say real quick, like you mentioned, sobriety doesn't equal misery. I'm a real big advocate for that, because my biggest fear before I got sober was, how am I going to enjoy life without having a beer, without smoking a joint, without fill in the blank? How can I watch football? How can I go to a wedding? How can I go out to dinner? And that was my biggest fear. And it could have been the furthest thing from the truth, is how it's actually played out. I have so much fun and positive memories going to these events sober.
I love that. As someone who has that fear, I'm not entirely sober. You and I talked about this when we met. I'm not entirely sober yet, and I have that fear, and I make excuses. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Well, why did you land in the hole? What specifically brought you there?
When you say the hole, do you mean the solitary confinement in prison? The hole?
Solitary confinement, prison.
Oh, so I committed a series of burglaries here in Rochester. Broke into people's houses and stole basically whatever I could to get money for that next fix. And May 18th of 2013, I got caught in a Saturday morning in Brighton, which I'm sure a lot of listeners are from Rochester, but those that aren't, it's a suburb in Rochester here, right next to the city. I got caught breaking into somebody's house that morning and arrested, and, subsequently all the other things that I had done the previous 3 or 4 months came back to kind of bite me. And all of it combined to where I got sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. If I behaved, I could have got out in 3. I got in trouble my whole time in prison. So I did the whole 3.5. And then was when I got rearrested, which went back to what I just explained, and did another 6 months. During the time in prison, nothing changed. I continued to do the same thing I did on the street. And the sad reality is, in prison, drugs are everywhere. I got high more than half my days in there. And that landed me in solitary confinement over and over again. All said and done, I did 12 months and 25 days in solitary confinement, which was the worst experience of my life, hands down. Nothing could have prepared me for that social, physical, mental isolation of being thrown in a room and locked with nothing but your thoughts. It's just brutal. But it's all part of the journey. And the good thing is, on the solitary confinement front, a lot of that's changing. I've been working as an advocate in that field for a couple of years now. If I would have done the exact same thing today in New York State prison that I did then, which was all nonviolent drug use, landed me in solitary. Right. I got 90 days added on my solitary time for trying to commit suicide.
Wow.
That's how messed up the system was.
Yeah.
If I did the same thing today, I'd maybe spend 30, 40 days in there. But back then, how the rules were, and this was 2014, 15, 16, it was over a year.
Wow. So, and your body's detoxing at that time, I imagine. Do they not have they have to obviously see that people are doing drugs, right? That's part of why you're landed there. Do they have systems in place to get you recovered, or you just they just throw you in there and say, "Eh, like how does that work, man?"
When yeah, it's a phenomenal question. When you first get arrested, they have systems in place at the county jail. So they will ask you what you're coming off of. They will, especially if it's benzodiazepines or alcohol, they will make sure that you are on 24-hour watch, because both those detoxes can be lethal.
Yeah.
If it's opioids, cocaine, meth, fill in the blank, they give you minor meds like Tylenol and stuff, and they watch you, but they don't really give you much. I mean, the nurse comes and checks up on you 4 or 5 times a day. You're in a special unit. But now in prison, if you're using in prison and you get sent to solitary or a new prison or whatever, there are 0 detox protocols. It is up. You got busted for drug use, have fun in the hole. And you detox right off there, whatever. So that's kind of how it works there. And it's not fun.
Doesn't sound fun, man.
No.
So you officially get out. You've already probably mentally committed that I don't want to come back here again. So you're back to the real world. You're back to a new reality. How does that feel? What's going through your head? Are you triggered to go back to your old ways? Like, tell me about that, that initial moment where you didn't relapse again and you ultimately got out and started making changes. What did that look like?
So when I was at Willard, that boot camp place, the last 2 weeks before it was over, they brought in 2 gentlemen from Rochester who were in AA. And one of the guys, told his story. And that was the first time I really connected with somebody. This guy told his story. He was about 8 years sober at the time. And 8 years prior, he was sitting in the exact room I was in as an inmate. And I really related, was like, wow, he's got a smile on his face. He genuinely is happy. And he was where I was, so I could relate. Maybe I could do it. So when I got out, I connected with people in the AA community and really got involved in that, which was a life-saving decision. But it was not just, peaches and cream. There was a lot of issues, triggers, like you mentioned, cravings. This is where, and this is very personal, I'm not a doctor, but it's life-saving. I got on the Suboxone program at the time. Even though I was 5 months sober, I got on the program, and most people will understand that you get on the program as you're detoxing, but it doesn't have to be that way, because it helps with cravings and triggers. That was a second life-saving piece, because I had gotten out of prison. I was about 6 months clean and sober, about a month out of prison. And, I blatantly said to the doctor, I'm going to use. I am freaking out. I am craving. I am triggered everywhere I walk. I'm going to use. I need some type of help. And the medication was the little piece on top of AA and outpatient and recovery that really let me push through and get through those hard couple months. Because it is a new work. It is I think it must be so hard for people that have done 7, 10, 12 years. I did 4 and was still, technology was different. Cars were different. Like, I remember just looking at the phone from when I went in to came out was like, because I didn't touch a phone the whole time I was in there. A couple of guys smuggled in flip phones, but that's it. It was like, you really have to adapt. And then you're kind of thrown with, get a job, rebuild relationships for the people that have kids, get your kids back in your life, show up to parole every week. And so it's a lot. And my advice to anybody who maybe is going through it is just take it one thing at a time. It was like, all right, I owe a lot of money for college loans. I can't do it right now, but let me call them and pay $5 a month. Okay, that's taken care of. The next week, let me focus on relationship, just taking little bits and pieces.
You got to just do a little bit at a time. You can't
exactly
just expect everything to change overnight, right? That's unrealistic. So, and you have been taking it one day at a time and 1 week at a time ever since. We're recording this in April. How long has it been that you've been a sober dog?
It's been, well, That's an interesting question. So technically, as a sober dog, 5 years, but I did have a relapse, and it has been 3 years and 7 months. I have been totally clean and sober. I had 9 months, and then I had a 5-day relapse, and then I had 11 months clean, and I had a week relapse, and then since then it's been 3 years and 7 months. And I would attribute both those relapses to not fully committing, combined with complacency. That point where it's like, I'm doing a lot of good things and rebuilding, and I got a little too comfortable of the things that got me the sobriety and recovery. I think it's insane to think I could keep those without continuing to do them, which was the huge thing. Like for me, it happened to be 12-step programs and outpatient. So if those things are what's helping keep me sober, if I stop them, I'd be kind of crazy to think that I'm going to continue to keep that recovery. So I got comfortable in that, stopped doing all those things. And then it slowly came back and bit me. And by the, a higher power, the universe, somebody was looking out for me and got me back on track after a couple days.
Dude, well, I'm proud of you. Everyone listening's proud of you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
It.
And so Sober Dogs, talk about that name. Talk about the passion behind that name. And we'll get into Sober Dogs as a business, because I think it's really cool that your struggle is more common than we'd like. But I'm blessed to know you, because you're taking that struggle and you're actually turning it into a business to help people with that similar struggle. And you turned it into a business, and that's fascinating. And I want to get into the business end of things in a second, but let's start with that name, Sober Dogs. Talk about the passion behind that name.
Sure. So I'm a huge animal lover. Dogs are, my favorite thing. Like in prison, we get a little bulletin board, I don't know, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. We're allowed to put pictures on that. And, most guys had their family and their kids, and maybe, some Nicki Minaj or some girls and some bikinis. And, I had my dogs, I had my family, but something about the peace, the unconditional love, and just the playfulness of animals is like the most purest form of meditation for me. It is just bliss. I love them. So when I got out, I would see specifically one event I saw, and this goes into the why too of Sober Dogs. I saw a friend of mine's family, his parents at Wegmans, and hey, how you doing, Kyle? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how's Mark? Oh, he's great. He got a job at Paychecks. His wife is just pregnant. They just bought a great, I've all these perfect things as a 30-year-old should be doing. And they asked me how I'm doing. And I don't want to lie, but if I tell them the truth, this is maybe 5 weeks out of prison. The truth would be I'm freaking out. I'm craving drugs. I live with my parents. I'm in massive debt, and I'm on parole. Right. But I kind of put it in the middle, I'm all right. I didn't tell them that. But then I walked away from that experience you have to put this out there. You have to put your story out there, and also others, not only in a selfish is a word that comes to mind, but I don't like that word. It just happens to fit for my own benefit of being comfortable with what I've been through. It's part of me, but having others being able to connect and relate, just like I did with that gentleman who came in and spoke. And that's where Sober Dogs was born. I bought the domain name, and I named it Sober Dogs just because of the combination of sobriety and loving dogs and animals. And got a website domain and just started writing, and wrote about solitary and what addicts are thinking at this stage. And my goal was to get inside the mind of somebody in addiction, for those who haven't been there or have friends and family struggling with it, so they can better comprehend what's going on. Why are they doing this? Why did they say that? Why are they going here? And it blossomed into social media and YouTube and a lot of other things. And it's just been absolutely an amazing journey.
It is amazing. And first, I want to put an exclamation point on, and you already know this, self-care isn't selfish. It really isn't. And
Mhm.
I've got a buddy, Mike Polanski. He's writing a book on it. It has all academy called the Me First Academy. Because at the end of the day,
Oh,
you need to be able to be one with yourself, talk about
yeah.
yourself, and be okay with it to actually fill other people's cups and help them. So I commend you for that. I don't know if there's a better word than selfish, but I
Yeah.
still don't think self care is selfish regardless.
Mm.
Um, so you started as a blog and it just continued to blossom. What was there a moment in time where you realized like I've got some momentum here? Is there a moment in time where you realize this is actually going to be my like vision for the future? Like did that happen or did it obviously it happens gradually, but I'm
Yeah.
just kind of curious as your experience there.
Yeah. Definitely gradually and the ups and downs. I think you have to be careful as a quote online content creator, um, because I definitely have gotten points being stuck with the numbers, so to speak, where there's days, waking up, checking. I know everyone who's in some type of online content creation, whether it's podcast, YouTube, blog, we check the numbers. It's what we do. How did it do last night? How did it do the day before? And getting, there was points where like, holy crap, things are growing consistently day over day. I got momentum here, but then being careful because there's weeks or months where it's all of a sudden that growth slows, not letting that deter. But there was absolutely points for me. It was probably when some local politicians and news companies started to reach out, like to talk and do stories. And hey, we're having an opioid seminar downtown. Would you like to speak? And I'm like, wow, like you want me to come talk? And that worked out beautiful because I minored in public speaking in college and I love it. So I was like, sure, like,
Yeah.
almost felt a little imposter syndrome. Like, why me? Like, I don't, cause it's like the guy or girl man or woman who didn't get stuck in prison deserves the praise over the guy who went. But it's like, no, your story
No.
needs to be heard because there's others going through that struggle. And that was really a moment of like, this has got some momentum. And that again, ebbed and flowed. And I had a lot of momentum pre-COVID and with speeches, public speeches, and that just went down. But then YouTube went up, so
Mm.
it's this juggle of one and the other. And I think the key for me is not letting the numbers dictate it and just here's the mission, continue to go with the mission. And that email from the mother who said, thank you for this article or video. It let me understand my son's addiction is more important than any, following numbers.
I couldn't agree more. I don't get that many of those messages on my show, but if I looked at the numbers and the quantity of content I produce, I
Mm-hmm.
drive myself crazy because
Yeah.
it ebbs and flows. I'll have huge guests that are world renowned, and it won't do as good statistically as a local guy like you, it's all over the place, but.
Mm-hmm.
It's those moments where someone reaches out and says, thank you
Yeah.
for that interview. It changed my life. That makes all of it beyond worthwhile.
Exactly.
How do people watch the videos, read the blog, social media? This is all completely free content. How do people
Yeah.
follow you and get engaged?
So if you just type in Sober Dogs pretty much anywhere, whatever medium you're on, it should pop up. I really focus on YouTube right now. And it's just, if you're on YouTube, type in Sober Dogs, the channel, actual line, youtube.com/Sober Dogs. But same thing with Instagram, TikTok, all of them. And the website is soberdogs.com. So pretty much if you just Google it, all those things, come up in succession. The only one I didn't get the exact name I wanted was Instagram. It's Sober Dogs, the number 2, but we're working on it. So
yeah, Instagram's a difficult one. It seems like everything's been taken by now, but Sober Dogs everywhere. You'll find it on Instagram as well. Sober Dogs 2. And I'll put links in the show notes as well. So that's all free content. You're gracing the world with hours, tens of hours, hundreds of hours of free content. How do you run a business with all this free content? Talk about like the monetization end of things. What services do you provide? Is it the speaking, mentorship? Tell me a little bit about what you can offer somebody.
Sure. So that is a great question, because that's a big crossroads I'm at right now of how much I did decide early on to have Sober Dogs be a business and not a nonprofit. And that was more to do with where I was at the time, simply with the paperwork and what New York State required to be a nonprofit, on top of the fact that I'm a one-man show at my house. I don't have a physical location or anything. So nonprofit wasn't the route to go. Okay. Going as a business, I work really hard to keep the authenticity and not ruin it by plugging and filling with a million ads. But I know that's also essential, because I've spent my entire savings and 60 hours a week doing this for years now. So how I physically make money is through like YouTube ads, TikTok Creator Fund, Patreon, and then paid speeches. Like right now, I have a paid speaking gig coming up for the state of Wisconsin Department of Health and Department of Corrections. They're paying me to speak at their annual conference, basically give the perspective of the other side, the person who's been a parolee using and lying to the PO and trying to sneak through the system. They just want to hear the story and all about that. And also, I have a breakout session with them on harm reduction, where, for those that may not know, harm reduction basically meaning meeting people where they're at, especially in addiction. Of if somebody's using heroin daily and they stop that, but they're smoking weed, let's work with them on that. It's better. Maybe it's not the best thing in the world that they're still using something, but it's better, and that's okay. And that's a step down, and that's fantastic. That's what harm reduction is. So I'm really working to get the speaking gigs up, and would love to do it if anybody is interested. Anything from harm reduction to solitary confinement in prison, to the addiction story, to motivation of getting through it. And that's kind of where I'm at with the monetization. I'm really working on upping it a little bit, because to be quite honest, it's been a couple of years of me spending way more than was coming in. Yeah. So it started as more of a hobby side thing when I had a full-time job, and has morphed into, this has become my full-time job. And with that, making some money has to be part of it.
Yeah, and it's difficult.
Sure.
For most of us, I know personally, I'm not an MBA, and I'm a marketer. I worked for marketing companies, but at the end of the day, I showed up, clocked in, did my job, made money, and left. Now, as a business owner, there's a lot of challenges that a lot of people don't really have on a day-to-day. One of them is having to figure out monetization, because you're basically in charge of everything. But wow, I mean, obviously, so 1 million on YouTube, plenty on Instagram, other platforms, TikTok, so on and so forth. So obviously the world likes the message and can learn. So, I mean, the sky's the limit for the speaking gigs, maybe a mentorship group, different programs. Yeah. I'm just excited to keep up to date and see what you're doing as we go forward. As a super small business owner like myself, who's just getting started, it's difficult at times, and you have to look at, I'm spending more money than I make. Give us some, because all my listeners are content creators of some kind, because they're posting on social media. Whether you're a content creator or not, you are. If you're posting on social media at all, you are a content creator. What are some deliberate ways that, a small business owner or anyone who's looking to build a personal brand, like, are there any different tools or tips, anything like cheap or easy that you'd recommend for someone just to create good content, whether it's a YouTube thumbnail or a post, or what comes to mind for you?
Sure. The big one that comes to mind for me is Canva, canva.com. That has been, I love the question. I've heard it in various areas of life of like, what is a, best cheap, or thing that you've, best investment, what item, what product, what thing. That's been one of those things for, I don't know, 12, 13 bucks a month. It's like $100 a year, give or take, has been a game changer with everything from YouTube thumbnails to stock video to stock music. Anything when I'm doing a video, if I have a little word pop up, just every picture and any video I make, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or anything, comes from Canva. Every thumbnail, vast majority of background music. It's just been a phenomenal program. And second to that, I would say is I use Envato Elements a lot. I don't have their like full subscription program or anything, but has been excellent. And I would tell people too, when I was the guy with my friend group growing up, both in college and, my high school buddies, I was last with technology, with everything. I was the last one to get a smartphone. I was the last one to find out new stuff. And that's just how I worked. Then add 4 years of being taken out of society and in prison. When I came out, I knew how to check my email and look up dirty videos online. That's it. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I literally learned from free YouTube videos, everything from video editing to thumbnail creation to making Instagram reels to how to make my TikTok have background sound. All those of just typing it in on YouTube and watching somebody give some phenomenal free content. So I would say to anybody out there too, just type it in, and you would be shocked at how many tutorials are out there. Video editing is another shortcut I use for video editing, a free program that I learned totally just by process and error, never taken a video editing class in my life, never edited anything prior to Sober Dogs, and just learned by watching other people teach it online.
Dude, I love it. So at the end of the day, anyone can do it. So you recommend YouTube University. Everything is basically free. There's tutorials on everything, right?
Yep. And even just if it's not the direct video you want on there, type it in Google. And, even things like Masterclass have thousands of free hours. And there's another one I can't think of. It's not coming to my mind. Thousands of free training videos on whatever. If you want to write a book, I watched videos on YouTube from, world-renowned authors like James Patterson and these other people. Just, this is my process. This is what I do. And it's totally free. And I'm like, you can't beat this. I'm getting a 20-minute tutorial from, James Patterson or, I was going to say Vince Flynn. I know he passed away, the guy who took over his series, but it's incredible. You can't beat it.
I think about that sometimes. We're talking, hundreds, if not hundreds, thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of experience and application all squeezed into like a bite-sized video, a 5-10 hour-long video where they're taking hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of hours of experience and teaching it to you. Blows my mind that the internet it's like the craziest thing ever. It's a beautiful day and age to learn something new. So we all love YouTube University. How else do you stay chipper with all these challenges? Do you have a direct mentor? Is it, the AA group? Who do you look for? Who do you look to for advice and to make sure you stay chipper, whether it's in life or business? Like, how do you stay chipper and keep the saw sharp?
I have multiple mentors in various different areas. And that's a perfect question because I think it's essential for recovery and kind of life in general. I have my AA sponsor who is not necessarily a business person or mentor, but the general positive life advice and conversations I could have with him translate into everything else. When I'm in a better physical, spiritual, and emotional place, my business does better. Then online and in business, I have a speaking mentor, and I'll give a shout out to him too. He's a keynote speaker, Kevin Rempel. He's awesome. He helps me so much with speaking gigs and honing speeches and just setting that up. And then I have a community too of other. It's worked out perfect too, because I found other online content creators who are in recovery and post-addiction recovery stuff. So we have this beautiful group where we understand both. We're talking about like YouTube thumbnails and what videos do better and content creation, but we all get to, hey, are you still sober today? Like, we get the inside recovery part too, and not, because I think there's that balance, especially true for us in recovery, is if I go too far, if I burn myself out working, and I don't want to put this down for the normal person because it's terrible, you know, the emotional bottom people hit. But for me, a burnout most likely means I'm using heroin. So how important it is to have that community of like, we could talk about everything from analytics to how you feeling today? Are you doing all right? You know, is your mindset okay? If not, it's okay not to post, take a day off. And there's probably 4 or 5 of us that I keep in a regular in touch with, and we go over all that stuff on a pretty much a weekly basis.
Dude, thank you for saying that. I know even personally, I'm on a schedule where I post 6 times a week.
Wow.
And I have a bad day sometimes, and I have tremendous amount of anxiety when I'm not getting a post out. And it's freaking ridiculous.
Yes.
It's stupid.
Yes.
The amount of anxiety I get because I maybe overslept, and then I had a fire to put out at work, and then I didn't plan my post. So now I need to try, and it's in the back of my head. I got to post 6 days a week.
You set the bar, and you do you get this as well? I'll get that kind of, almost like FOMO of like, all right, I'm going to take today off and not post, but then I'll check social media and my brain immediately goes to, you're missing out. Like, others are passing you up. You're missing out because you didn't post today. You got it. And it's almost that, I love watching Gary Vee, but it's almost that Gary Vee mentality of like, get it, content all day, post. And it's like, well, yeah, Gary, you got a team of 13 people. I'm solo here, man. Give me a break. But I get it too on the flip side of like the days where everything's, melding and you post 4 or 5 things and it's like, wow, this is great. But it's totally normal and okay to take the next day off or take a week off, or, those extra 50 or 100 likes or followers or views is not going to make or break the business or the day or, basically anything.
It's really not.
Except our mentality.
Except our mentality. And you're right with the Gary Vee thing, right? So he's got cameras on him 24/7. Other than going to the bathroom, I think he just has cameras on him all day. But he doesn't actually sit down at the laptop and edit any of that film or timestamp it. I think he might come up with headlines or something. Once it's already done, he'll look at a 45-second video and pick a headline. But we don't all have that luxury. So like someone like me, I'll have like a photo shoot done, and I'll have photos that I can post. And if I don't post them quick enough, they're not relevant in my head. Or I currently have a bank. I have enough content for like 3 months. I don't have copy for all the content, but I feel like if I don't post it, it's like I'm missing out. I'm like, it's going stale on me. All this stuff's completely irrational, and we're only human. And so you're basically saying I need to focus on my mental and physical health first, and getting the next like really isn't going to make or break me.
Exactly. Yep. And I think it all works itself out, because I know for myself, and I'm sure it sounds like the same for you, when my mental and physical and emotional and spiritual health is in a good spot, when I take that first 2 hours of the morning out, or even hour, and do positive things like take a walk without technology or meditate or whatever, the next 3 hours of work are so much more productive than the day I roll over onto the computer and just start going. It is, and it's ironic because our brains tell us the opposite. Like, if you roll over and jump on the computer at 7 a.m., 7 to noon, you get 5 hours of work. But in reality, the productivity of that 5 hours is maybe 50%. versus if I take 7 to 8:30 and relax and have my cup of coffee and walk outside and get some sunlight and maybe make a positive phone call, then that 8:30 to noon is like 95% productivity, and I get so much more done.
It's a good point. It's hard to measure, but just because I worked 16 hours, just because I worked 8 hours, doesn't mean I actually had 8 productive hours, right?
Exactly.
If I've got mental clutter, if I'm thinking about my next fix, it doesn't have to be drugs, but if I'm fixing and thinking about something outside of it's only going to slow me down, right?
Yep. I read something in the beginning of the pandemic of, and I'm these aren't going to be exact. I'm roughly,
Sure.
estimating of what they said, but it was like the amount of productivity the average employee does at their physical job location if they go to the office was like 5 hours in 50 minutes out of the 8, and then at home was down to like 4 and change. And it just goes to show of like, and my brother makes me laugh. My brother works at Paychecks, and he'll tell me sometimes of like, it's crazy how some of these people, they'll sit there and watch Netflix, on their computer and just hit that bottom line. And I laugh and I'm like, I get it too, though. It's like, that's their help. That's their outlet. I don't, I'd maybe push a little harder to not do that at work, but regardless, I have my own, get stuck watching YouTube videos that maybe aren't relevant to anything I'm doing, but it's like my healthy 15-minute outlet. Is there other things I could or should be doing healthier? Would a walk or a meditation be better? Yeah. But I think we all kind of go to that outlet at certain points during the day. And that's why they have the, 90-minute or 60-minute work chunk and then take a 20-minute break and then, take those breaks in between.
Dude, I'm with you. And it's going to be different for everyone, right? It's no two people were built exactly the same. I know personally, I work a lot of hours, and people, for example, my girlfriend and her kids, it's like, you're always working. First off, I love what I do. Second off, I'm a huge freaking slacker. And I'm okay with that. I am a huge slacker. So I'll get in, I'll be doing social media for a client, and then as I do that, I'll be direct messaging, people that I network with, or I'll be checking emails. And multitasking is not the best route, but I slack, but it works for me. I would rather take 10 hours to do 8 hours in quotations worth of work, but do better work than the person that just did. Efficiency doesn't matter to me. For me, it's enjoying what I do, taking breaks. Right after this, I've got another thing in 30 minutes. I'm going to take a walk in between. I'm not going to work for those 30 minutes. I'm just going to take a break, man. That's okay, right?
And I think you'll be so much more effective and better in your next thing by doing that.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. That resets our brain a little bit, clears our head, and at least for me, and it sounds like for you too. Yeah. But that's so true. You love what you do. That's phenomenal. Same here. And that's what it's about. I was reading an article the other day on, it's like 5 things. It was in the Rochester Business Journal, I think. 5 things you need to run your own business. And 2 of them were pretty much self-motivation and that why, but without beating ourselves up. Like, it's okay to say it took me 3 hours longer to do this thing. For me, I'm a one-man show sitting here in front of my computer. Like, I need human contact after a while. So at noon, I will go to the gym because that's what I do every day. And that's okay. It doesn't need to be 8 to 4, 9 to 5 of straight work.
Right.
But then after at 2:00, come back and just like you said, no two people are alike. It's however it works for us, it's okay. And not to beat ourselves up over it, I think is key. But I know my brain, if I talk to other people like I talk to myself, I'd get punched in the face. I know that one.
Yeah. I mean, we're our own worst critic.
Yep.
We're on the same page, man. In a second, I want to go to the rapid fire round, but one thing that came to mind is just like a mental reframe that I do, and I think everyone really should do. And it's not, I had to spend 5 hours on this when I could have done it in 3. It's like, got to spend 5 hours on this.
Yeah.
Like, I got to take my time. Like,
Yeah.
it really stinks. And we've all been through it, and some people are going through it right now. There's lots of deadlines, and you have to hit the deadline.
Yeah.
And it kind of stinks. You could
It's so
say
true.
I get to make my deadlines. I get to have, I get to actually hold myself accountable. In my case, I get to slack off a little bit. I get to take a walk.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I get to take longer. And I think any business owner or entrepreneur, some people might disagree. Please comment and let me know you disagree. I feel like I get to kind of live on my own terms, and that's way better than even being efficient sometimes.
Yeah. That's part of the reward of running your own business, but also goes with the risk of,
right.
I think that's where the risk reward comes in of, hey, being, your own boss. Yes, I get to leave and go to the gym, and you get to go for your walk, but it's also on us then that at 6 o'clock, when maybe somebody from a 9 to 5 gets to totally detach, I still got to pick that phone up and do this or that. Last night at 9 o'clock, I'm posting a TikTok video because I knew that from 7 to 9:30 is a prime time on TikTok to post. So I had to, I do almost nightly, and that's okay. And that's the substitution for maybe the hour I'm at the gym during the day is, filling it in at night, or give or take. But yeah, I totally agree. Reframing it and just, hey, it's a 5-hour project. That's going to include an hour of walking around and slacking off. That's okay.
Dude, let's go rapid fire just to get to know you a little better. Short, sweet, fill in the blank. Don't feel like you got to rush, but ultimately just short answer questions.
Okay.
Easy start, coffee or tea?
Coffee, absolutely.
Favorite season?
Summer.
Favorite guilty pleasure that now that you're sober?
Ice cream. I love ice cream. I could eat ice cream for all 3 meals a day.
You got any favorite flavors?
Cookie dough. Oh boy. Ultimate cookie. Any more cookie dough they could put in there would be better.
So we talked about how you like this question. Take your time with it, but 3 people, or you could do 4 or 5, how many you want. 3 people, alive or dead. If you could just have a dinner party, shoot the breeze, and hang out with anybody, who would you want to hang out with?
We talked about him prior. I would love to sit down with Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Denzel Washington at a dinner table. And I would also like to add in Stephen Hawking, or basically any astronomer or astrophysicist. I forgot the one gentleman's name, but I'm fascinated with space and anything to do with that. I think the conversation at a table like that would be through the roof. I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan and the podcast and just everything he does. And Elon, I think, is just I don't know if he's a robot or what, but he's a different breed of human that I just think is fascinating. And Denzel being one of my favorite actors, he just seems like he has a calm and a poise about him that is like, I would love to learn and see that. And I know that was all men. That's just what came to my mind. There's a ton of women I could add on the list too. It just happened to be those are the first that came to my mind.
Yeah, no, dude. Conversations for years, man.
Oh yeah.
And I love
Warren
how
Buffett.
They're all different personalities too.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't just be talking about all the same stuff, dude.
Oh, it'd be I can't imagine where that would go.
Last one. What's exciting you today, man? What are you learning? What are you excited about? Like, what's the vision for the future, man?
I am excited to do more just straight filming of people's story. I've been putting up people's story lately of just as simple as them sitting in a chair telling their truth, minimal editing, and it's been good feedback. People seem to really relate. I'm excited to do more of that, to reach out to more people in Rochester if they're willing to share and just branch out wherever that can take me, along with speaking. I'm really would love to land a couple more speaking gigs, whether it's local, whether it's on Zoom, whatever the case is. That would be that's definitely my aim and my goal for the near future.
Love it. And tell us once again, how do people get in touch if they want you to speak, they want to consume your content, they want to support you?
Sure.
Let's shout out how to do that one more time.
Appreciate that. It's so YouTube's probably my biggest platform. Sober Dogs on youtube.com/Sober Dogs. I do a lot on TikTok and Instagram too. Again, both Sober Dogs. And if you'd like to email me, it's soberdogs2@gmail.com. And that's anytime anybody'd like to get in touch. All this stuff too is on, if you remember just one thing, soberdogs.com. All the links are on there, email, YouTube, T-shirts, Patreon, whatever people like to do to support. It's all on there.
Soberdogs.com. And Patreon's great because if you're consuming the content, donate to the Patreon. It's just a little bit of extra to allow that content to be produced. Dude, I'm looking forward to the growth of Sober Dogs. I look forward to seeing you more out and about doing your thing.
Thank you.
To close out, man, and I'm one of these people, I'm not entirely sober. And whether you're sober or not, we're all going through struggles. We all have our poisons we choose. We're all struggling in some way. What would you say to someone who just feels like they're in a really bad spot and they aren't happy with where they are in life and they need to make a change? What would you tell that person?
I would tell them, don't be afraid of what I call, somebody taught me, JOMO, the joy of missing out. Reset back up. It's okay not to get something done today. Take a step back and go reset your brain, your mindset, your emotions with whatever that is for you. For me, it would be maybe walking the dogs. Maybe it's playing with the kids. Maybe it's going for a bike ride. Maybe it's going to the museum by yourself and just reset. And I think what that allows us to do is really, we can't see the picture when we're in the frame. But when we step outside of it and have other people help us, like a mentor, sponsor, even just a family member, hey, I'm struggling. Here's what's going on. What do you think? We get these different perspectives and combine that with the reset. When you come back the next day, the next 2 hours, whether it's a week, it doesn't matter. I think we really can hit it with a whole new mindset. So I would say, take a step back, do something you truly and purely love that calms you down. Talk to a friend, and then go back and kind of reassess what you're going for, what you're looking for, what you're doing. And I would be willing to bet 99 times out of 100, your mindset will be totally different.
JOMO, baby. I love it.
Yep. Kevin Rempel taught me that.
Joy of missing out.
Yep.
Brother, this has been fun. We'll do it again.
Yes.
God bless him, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Same to you, Ben. Thank you for having me on, and same to you. Good luck. I can't wait to see this as #1 podcast in the world.
Yes, sir, brother.
Let's go.
Thanks for listening to Rochester Business Connections. Don't forget to share this, rate, and comment on your favorite platform. You can also email me, ben@balbertmarketing.com. Let's connect soon. Until then, keep thriving, everyone.